Welcome to the inaugural podcast of the Poet Laureate of Trinidad and Tobago program, run by the Circle of Poets in collaboration with NALIS, the National Library and Information System Authority. I am Andre Bagoo, Public Relations Officer of the Circle of Poets. In this podcast, we feature Poet Laureate Paul Keens-Douglas reading selections from his work. Keens-Douglas will also chat about life as a performer, the importance of poetry today, and his role as a Poet Laureate.
I am just a little leaf hanging from a tree. And from where I am, you'd be surprised at all the things I see. All the things that people do when they think that no one's there. When they think that no one's looking. When they think no one can hear. They sneak into the forest, they cut and steal the trees. They slash, they burn, erode the soil. They do just what they please. With no thought of tomorrow or what will happen next. Just we got to make some dollars, so who vex, let them vex. They hunt and kill the wildlife. Season matters not. They must have that wild meat to sweeten up the pot. And if a scarlet ibis passes by, and what I say is true, national bird or no national bird, he gone in that pot too. I feel sorry for the rivers. I feel sorry for the seas. Because they treat them the exact same way they treat the forest trees. They dirty up the water, throw garbage on the shore. They keep on building factories, polluting more and more. Dumping poison down the drains or piping it out to sea. Poor fish floating upside down, as dead could be. But do you think that bothers them? Well, think again, my friend. These folks seem to think that this earth can never end. So they continue with their wicked ways to show that they don't care. And as if trees and seas are not enough, they also pollute the air. Not with only soot and smoke, they also pollute with sound. No matter how you beg them, please keep the volume down. Yes, I'm just a little leaf hanging from a tree. And when I fall, I will join the earth to fulfill my destiny. But man has a greater role to play if only he can see that this whole wide world, all of it, is his responsibility. So let him stop, let him look, let him listen carefully. Let him see himself as I see him, hanging from this tree.
A little about Paul Keens-Douglas. Paul Keens-Douglas is Trinidad and Tobago's inaugural Poet Laureate. He was born in Trinidad on September 22nd, 1942. He has been writing and performing since 1974 and founded the Talk Tent in 1983 at Victoria Avenue, Port of Spain. Today, Talk Tent has become an integral part of Trinidad's post-carnival presentations, focusing on our oral literary tradition among other things. Keens-Douglas is the author of several books of poetry and short stories, including Tanti at the Oval, Savannah Ghost, and Twice Upon a Time. His many awards include the Hummingbird Silver in the Sphere of Culture and the Zora Neale Hurston Award.
I and I love you. A revelation of self like the sudden rays of dawn surprised the hill, shaking the shadows of night from its brow, making it smile in timid greenness of morning splendor. I and I need you. A revelation of self like the white-tipped wave rushing to the shore shouts to the golden sand to send it back, that it may come again. Eternal splendor. I and I want you. A revelation of self like the soft note of a tenor pan wafted on the breeze calls to the thunder of the bass the drum to give it life. A melody complete, soulful splendor. I and I await you. A revelation of self like the lonely gull on high caressing the wind with outstretched wings of majesty, spirals upwards, and is at one with nature. Savage splendor. I and I see you. A revelation of self as a tiny part of that cosmic force that gives a breath to my destiny, that I may live and die, and live again.
That was Paul Keens-Douglas reading I and I and You. Mr. Keens-Douglas, thank you for joining us.
Well, it's nice to be here. Nice of you to be interviewing me, actually.
Most people know you from your Talk 10 show, but can you tell us about your new role as Poet Laureate?
Well, as Poet Laureate, of course, I have a hankering for poetry for a long time. And it was an honor actually to be asked to be Poet Laureate of Trinidad and Tobago. And as I see the Poet Laureate, you're somewhat like an ambassador for poetry. You're supposed to help build the image of poetry and support poetry and encourage others to do so in whatever way you can. Of course, as individuals, we all bring our personalities to the job. So there are different types of Poet Laureates, and each Poet Laureate will bring what he has in his makeup to the job, right? In this case, I'm a performer, I'm a writer, I'm also a motivational speaker, so I have a lot of exposure out there on the stage. I think a lot of this can be turned to the benefit of promoting poetry once it's done correctly and once we have the support and the structures in place to move it outwards in the public image, right? So I think it's a nice job, nice thing to be asked to do. And sometimes, you want to join certain things to give back something to the society. And I think this is a good opportunity for me to make some kind of contribution, in another form. I do all the performing and that kind of thing. So in this case, and I particularly like it because it gives me a chance to work with young people again. And you don't get that often that type of young people interested in poetry and writing, in more sports and that kind of thing. So when you get people asking you to help push poetry, it's good because not many people come out to push poetry, particularly. So I think it was an honor to be asked to be this Poet Laureate, and I think as I said, once we have those structures in place, we can do a lot of work to help give poetry an image and put some sort of structure that others coming behind us can build on.
You mentioned giving back to society. What do you see as the role of poetry in society today?
Well, I think poetry particularly today needs to bring back the softness to the society. I think this is what we lack. We lack the values that make us respect those things like flowers and trees and old people and small children. All these things, you hear the crimes and you say to yourself, how could somebody do that? They have no respect, We grew up with that. We were taught those things. And you find that is lacking in the society today. And you get these things, you can't buy it at Hilo or Massey or any of these places. It is something that you have to develop and create, you see. And I think poetry and reading, all these artistic forms, bring those kind of values of softness back to the society. And we should encourage a lot more people, not just to perform poetry, but to read it and to get back in touch with the nature around them. I think we are more caught up in the sort of the financial aspects of life, the survival aspects of life, and we are drifting away from those little values that made us who we are, that brought the society the way it is today. And if there's one thing we can do as writers and poets is push what we have, which is poetry. So I think that's a natural place for us to start. You start with what you can do. We are into writing, we're into poetry, into performing. We can reach young people. I think that's the way we have to go. Other people who try other ways, fine for them. But I think in terms of poetry, we have it and we have people interested and we have a platform, then we go for it.
So how did you get into performing and being a poet?
Well, quite accidentally in a sense of a poet or a writer. I always loved drama from an early age. I was involved in drama of some kind. Even when I was born in Trinidad, but I grew up in Grenada. And my early days of Grenada, I was very much interested in drama, like theatre. I was a dancer. I started off in dance and theatre. I loved always loved the local plays, that kind of thing. And then I went to Canada, and again I got more involved up there because when you travel to places like Canada, you get more involved with your culture up there than at home. So you join the West Indian choir and you do West Indian plays and you actually begin to learn the songs you knew at home but never knew them fully. So I got involved with choirs and the drama and the theatre in Canada. And of course, the period in Canada, I was part of the Black Power movement. Those are the days of Black Power. And that's when the last poets and the black poets were all streaming on strike. And again, I was influenced by that. That's the first time you're hearing this type of poetry. And from Canada, I went to Jamaica. And there I heard Louise Bennett now doing her dialect and pushing this nation language. And it's right there on campus that I decided I should try my hand, after hearing Louise, try my hand at writing dialect poetry. And I wrote that first piece, Demand Passing. And since that time, I've never gone back to writing standard English. I mean, I still write standard English, but when I discovered the power of the poetry, when I saw how it moved people in the audience, the local poetry particularly, how the response Louise got to it, I thought, this is wonderful because you became a pioneer then in those days because there's nobody else to follow. You wrote your poem and you want to sing, you just sing. You want to dance, you dance your poem. You want to put upside down lines, you put it upside down. You were in charge of your poem. There was no structure that you had to follow. Whereas in the literature department, you had all these, literary terms and what is literature and what is poetry. Did away with all that, and we said, listen, I'm writing for the people. Let them be my audience. I took my poem once for somebody to critique it up there. The very first poem, as a matter of fact, and I can't call his name now, but and he gave me a long story about learning to live and love and all these kind of things. And I went home and I said, this man doesn't really understand what I'm trying to say. And I still say that, it's what the poet sees when he's writing, because the other person is not seeing what the person is seeing, right? So sometimes you critique a poem, and that person can't critique it because he's not really seeing what you're talking about, and you understand that the criticism is nice, but this man is not seeing, and therefore.
But isn't one of the great things about poetry how it reveals the different perspectives of people in relation to the same text?
Yeah, well, that's it. As I say, it is not what you say, but what people see. I always say communication is not about saying, but about seeing, right? And you can use the right word, and it changes the whole meaning of the sentence because you change one word or put the emphasis on the wrong part of the word. It becomes a bad word. In another context, it's a good word. But coming back to the writing of the lower poetry, in my case, I found it gave me a freedom I never had before in writing, because I was the one actually setting the pace. After Louis, there were very few local writers around. There are no records on the market here. And I put out that first record, Tim, and that became a big hit. And after that, I got so many calls to perform that eventually I just decided to quit and become a full-time poet, performer, writer, It all happened in sequence, but it's a spiritual thing, Sometimes you're called upon to do things that you have to do, but you just have to make the right choice at the time. You're all given the choices. And everything has to do with timing, and you just roads, you recognize it, that you're at a crossroad now and you have to make a decision. One side is plenty of money, and one side is what you want to do. Some people go for the money, other people say, I'm going to go for what I want to do. If you go for what you want to do, what happens in the end is that it becomes easy because the road opens for you. Everything opens because you're supposed to be on that road. And I think I made the right choice at that time, and it has brought me to right where I am today.
Okay, Mr. Tim, can we have a final poem?
Yeah. This is called The Same Old. It's a new poem. When I say new, it's been written some years ago, but I've never performed it, because it's been just lying there. So I'll do it for you now. Excuse me, please. I may be getting old, but everything seems like the same old. The same old this they call it new, the same old that, same point of view. Cricket, culture, politics, same old story, same old tricks. Saving the culture, same old cry. Save the pan before it die. Same old story, same old song. Same old committee to right the wrong. We need experience, you hear them say. Those who cause a problem should know the way. So put them back with a bigger say. Same old results, but for higher pay. Renaming things will make them change, no matter how you rearrange. It's the same old thing you did before, it's the same old thing you'll get for sure. It's all one big imitation game, no sense of vision, no sense of shame. Don't want to work, just want to be like the people we see on WeTV. Didn't we hear that line before? Sounds familiar to be sure. But don't you take my word for it, the same old cricket. The same old critic will call it great. I know as I stop and try to see, maybe it's not them, it's just the same old me. Been there, done that, where do we go from here? Wherever, whatever. No one seems to care.
That was Paul Keens-Douglas reading Same Old. You've been listening to the inaugural podcast of the Poet Laureate of Trinidad and Tobago program. The Poet Laureate of Trinidad and Tobago program is run by the Circle of Poets, an NGO dedicated to promoting the national awareness of poetry. To find out more, you can check out the website of the Circle of Poets at www.circleofpoetstt.org. I'm Andre Bagoo, and thanks for joining us.